Recently, I made a couple of videos about the Sony ZV-1 Mark II, which is the brand new version of Sony's flagship vlogging camera, the Sony ZV-1. But you might notice that in those videos that I posted, the audio quality is quite a bit different than it is right now. And in this video, which is going to be filmed entirely on that camera, I'm going to go over 9 new features on this camera. It is remarkably worse. And so in this video, I figured out what happened. So I want to explain what happened, why the audio quality was bad to begin with, and how I changed it. And I also want to redo that sound test between the best vlogging cameras that I posted recently against the Sony ZV-1 Mark II, the DJI Pocket 2, iPhone 14 Pro, and the GoPro Hero 11 Black. So to explain what happened, I kind of have to explain how I review cameras. So my focus is on compact, easy to use cameras. And so whenever I receive them, they usually are, factory reset. And the only things that I change, I try to leave as much as I can on auto. I change the video resolution and the frame rate, change it to 4K 30 on this camera. And I also enable stabilization if there is any. On this camera, there is active steady shot. And so those are the only settings that I changed when I got this camera. Speaking of this video and the other Sony videos that I did, were not sponsored. Sony does send me loaner cameras occasionally. This was the second time ever that it's happened. So I'm kind of new to this whole concept of getting a camera on loan. But the whole point is they send it to me to test it. I don't get to keep it. And, I edited the video. It didn't actually sound bad to me during editing. But obviously, once I uploaded and people started watching it, and I watched it back myself, I noticed that the audio quality was definitely lacking in those videos, which was surprising. Turns out, I realized this later on as I dug into the settings, that this camera had a wind reduction on the entire time that I was shooting. And that's not something I would normally toggle on during a test because wind reduction, as you guys have heard, can really affect the sound quality. This is a sound test with the ZV-1 Mark II with wind reduction set to on. But because it was a loaner, it turns out that someone else had used this camera and there were a few other settings that were enabled that didn't really affect the image or audio quality. The only one was the wind reduction that were on. So someone else had used the camera, it wasn't a factory reset when I got it, and that's why the wind reduction was on. And it was an oversight on my part, so I do take responsibility for that. And it's something that I'm gonna have to watch out for in the future. I should do factory resets whenever I get loaner cameras just in case. But yeah, I want to apologize to you guys and also to Sony. If you saw those other videos and you were under the impression that this camera has terrible audio, that's actually not the case. It has terrible audio if wind reduction is on. So with that in mind, let's redo the audio sample test from my recent best vlogging camera comparison, because one of the comparison points is how is the built-in audio quality on these cameras. This is a sound test with the Sony ZV-1 Mark II with the wind reduction on. This is what it sounds like. And this is a sound test with the Sony ZV-1 Mark II with the wind reduction off. We have the furry windscreen on in both cases, and this is what it sounds like using that built-in microphone. This is a sound test with the GoPro Hero 11 Black using the built-in internal microphones, and the wind reduction is on. This is what it sounds like. Now this is a sound test with the GoPro Hero 11 Black using built-in microphones with wind reduction set to off. We do have a bit of a breeze coming through, so here is the sound difference. Next, we have a sound test with the GoPro Hero 11 Black using the Media Mod. Media Mod does have a little foam windscreen on it, and it is set to front direction sensitivity. So this is what it sounds like using the Media Mod. This is a sound test with the iPhone 14 Pro using the built-in microphones. This is what it sounds like using that camera. Next up, we have the DJI Pocket 2 using the built-in internal microphones. This is what it sounds like using the microphones on this camera. And now after adding the wireless microphone with the little furry windscreen as well, this is what it sounds like using the DJI Pocket 2. I do think you're going to hear a bit of a difference, so I do think it's worth spending a little extra to get that little wireless microphone as part of that creator combo. So now that we've fixed the audio, I want to end by briefly going over a few reasons why the ZV-1 Mark II is better than the Mark I, because some of you did mention that the original video that I did that in was a little bit hard to watch because the audio wasn't so good. And so for those of you guys, this is for you. The first thing to know is that the ZV-1 Mark II has a wider angle lens It's a 16 to 50 millimeter equivalent versus 24 to 70 millimeter equivalent on the original ZV-1. This camera also has a built-in multi-directional microphone versus a directional microphone on the original ZV-1. Multi-directional basically means you can set it to be front sensitive, rear sensitive, all directions, or on auto. And some of you guys thought that that might have affected the audio quality, but I did a test and I didn't hear a difference. The difference really comes from the wind reduction setting. And finally, the other things that are great about the ZV-1 Mark II are really physical, like the fact that the tripod mount is now on the side of the camera and doesn't block access to the battery door and the memory card like it did on the ZV-1. And the charging port is a USB-C, finally, not a micro USB. The last thing is not really a positive, but it is the price. The ZV-1 Mark II is now $900 if you buy it brand new, versus $750 or $700 if you get the original ZV-1. And the ZV-1 has been around long enough that you can now get it on sale used for about $500, $600. So you might want to consider going that route or waiting a little while for used ZV-1 Mark IIs to come out in the market if price is an issue. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful. I don't like making videos like this because, I made a mistake. But at the same time, it's a disservice to you guys if I don't admit when I make mistakes. And so I hope that this was helpful one way or another. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you're ever in doubt, just shoot it.